The stars had never looked so strange. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the observation window of the UES Magellan and stared into the purple clouds of the nebula. Her ship had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. The Shroud, they called it. Every species in the galaxy avoided it. Every map marked it as forbidden. Every elder race said the same thing: do not go there. But Elena was human. And humans had a habit of going exactly where they were told not to go. "Captain, we are approaching the edge of the interference zone," said Lieutenant Park from the navigation console. His voice was calm, but Elena could see the sweat on his forehead. "The Concord warning beacons are broadcasting on all frequencies. They really do not want anyone in here." Elena smiled. "Good. That means there is something worth finding." The Galactic Concord had welcomed humanity into their civilization 120 years ago. They had given humans a seat at the great table of spacefaring species. But it was always the smallest seat, the seat in the corner. The elder races looked at humanity the way adults looked at children playing with toys. They tolerated humans. They did not respect them. Elena was tired of being tolerated. "Take us in," she ordered. The Magellan pushed forward into the nebula. The purple clouds wrapped around the ship like fog. Sensors flickered and died. Communications filled with static. For 20 minutes, the crew flew blind through the darkness. Then the clouds parted. Dr. Marcus Chun was the first to see it. He was the ship's xenorchaeologist, a man who had spent his entire life studying dead civilizations. He had seen ancient ruins on 100 worlds. He had touched artifacts older than Earth's dinosaurs. Nothing had prepared him for this. "Oh my God," he whispered. Helena turned to look at the main screen. Her heart stopped. Ships, massive ships. Ships so large that her mind could not understand what her eyes were seeing. They hung in the void like sleeping giants, arranged in a perfect circle. Elena counted them quickly. 17. 17 ships, each one the size of Earth's moon. The bridge was silent. No one could speak. No one could breathe. "That is not possible," Lieutenant Park finally said. "Those ships are. They are the size of small planets. Nothing that big can exist." Dr. Chun walked slowly toward the screen. His hands were shaking. "They are not just big," he said quietly. "Look at the surface. Look at the patterns." Elena looked closer. The ships were covered in strange shapes and symbols. The metal, if it was metal, seemed to flow and curve like something alive. There were towers and valleys, ridges and canyons. Each ship was like a world unto itself. "I have seen those markings before," Dr. Chun continued. His voice was barely a whisper now. "In the oldest texts, in the stories that even the elder races say are myths. These are architect ships." Elena felt cold. The architects. Every civilization in the galaxy had stories about them. A race that existed before all others. A race that built wonders beyond imagination. A race that vanished 10 million years ago without a trace. The Galactic Concord officially denied they ever existed. They said the architects were just legends, but legends did not leave behind moon-sized ships. "Are they active?" Elena asked. The science officer checked her instruments. "No, Captain. I am reading no power signatures. No life signs. No movement. These ships are dead. They have been dead for a very, very long time." Elena nodded slowly. Her mind was racing. This discovery would change everything. This would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. And humanity had found it. Not the proud Valori with their ancient wisdom. Not the mighty Serathi with their great fleets. Humanity, the children, the newcomers, the species that everyone dismissed. "We need to get closer," she said. "We need to document everything. Every angle, every detail, every marking. "Captain," Lieutenant Park interrupted, "if we send a transmission from here, the Concorde might intercept it. They will know what we found." Elena thought about this for a long moment. The smart thing would be to keep this secret, to study the ships quietly, to learn their secrets before anyone else knew. But Elena was not thinking about being smart. She was thinking about her people. She was thinking about every human who had ever been told they were not good enough, not old enough, not wise enough. "Send a coded message to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them what we found. Tell them to send every ship they can spare. Tell them humanity just changed the game." The message went out. It traveled through space at faster than light speeds, bouncing through relay stations, crossing the vast distances between stars. It reached Earth in 6 hours. Within 12 hours, the United Earth Council was in emergency session. Within 24 hours, humanity's entire exploration fleet was mobilizing in secret. But secrets are hard to keep in a galaxy full of listening ears. 3 days later, in a Concorde observation post on the edge of known space, a Sirathi communications officer detected a fragment of the transmission. He was young and bored, and not supposed to be monitoring human frequencies. But something in the static caught his attention. He decoded the fragment. He read the words. Then he ran. Ambassador Velkith of the Sirathi Dominion was eating dinner when the officer burst into his quarters. The ambassador was old and tired, and had seen many things in his long life. He did not like being disturbed. "This better be important," he growled. The officer handed him the decoded message. Velkith read it once. Then he read it again. The color drained from his face. His hands began to tremble. The plate of food fell from his lap and shattered on the floor. "Impossible," he whispered. "It cannot be, sir?" the officer asked. "What does it mean?" Velkith looked up. His eyes were filled with something the young officer had never seen before. Fear. Pure, absolute fear. "The Titans," the ambassador said. "The humans found the Titans." He stood up quickly and walked to his communication console. His movements were frantic now, desperate. "Contact the High Chancellor immediately. Contact everyone. Wake them all up if you have to. Sir, it is the middle of the night cycle. I do not care." Velkith shouted. "The humans have found the ships that killed billions. The ships that drove entire species to madness. The ships that we sealed away 10 million years ago and prayed would never be found." He turned to look out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, in a forbidden nebula, humanity was poking at the most dangerous things in the universe, and they had no idea what they had awakened. 3 months had passed since the discovery, and the galaxy was on fire with rumors. The Galactic Concorde met in their great assembly hall on the capital world of Velantis Prime. 1,000 species gathered under the crystal dome, their voices rising in argument and accusation. At the center of it all stood High Chancellor Zorath of the Velari, the oldest and most respected of the elder races. "The humans must withdraw immediately," Zorath declared. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "The shroud is forbidden space. It has been forbidden for 10 million years. This is not a suggestion. This is law." The human ambassador, a woman named Sarah Okonkwo, stood alone at her small podium. 1,000 alien eyes stared at her. 1,000 alien voices whispered about her. She did not flinch. "With respect, High Chancellor," she said calmly, "humanity does not recognize the Concorde's authority over unexplored space. We found those ships. They are ours to study." The chamber exploded with noise. Species shouted insults. Delegates pounded their appendages on their desks. One Sirathi representative had to be held back by security. "You do not understand what you are dealing with," Zorath shouted over the chaos. "Those ships are not treasures. They are tombs. They are weapons of a dead civilization that killed billions of beings across 1,000 worlds. Ambassador Okonkwo did not react. Then perhaps you should tell us the truth, High Chancellor. Tell us what the Concord has been hiding for 10 million years. Silence fell over the chamber. Zorath's face went pale. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he sighed heavily and nodded. Very well. You want the truth? Here is the truth. He pressed a button on his podium. Holographic images appeared in the air above the assembly. Images of ships. Ships the size of moons. Ships identical to the ones humanity had found. We call them Titans, Zorath said quietly. The last creations of the architects before they vanished. We do not know exactly what the architects made them for. What we do know is that they are more than ships. They are alive. They think. They feel. And they choose. The images changed. Now they showed ancient recordings. Alien species approaching the Titans. Alien scientists connecting to strange machines. Alien faces twisted in agony and madness. Every spacefaring species in this chamber has tried to activate the Titans, Zorath continued. The Valori tried. The Sirathi tried. The Kelzoth tried. All of us tried. And all of us failed. The Titans require a mental bond, a connection between ship and pilot. But the connection is too powerful. It breaks minds. It destroys souls. Over 10 million years, the Titans have killed more than 8 billion beings who tried to wake them. He turned to look directly at Ambassador Okonkwo. His eyes were hard. We did not hide this from you to be cruel. We hid it to protect you. The Titans are cursed. Anyone who tries to bond with them dies. Your scientists, your explorers, your brave Captain Vasquez, they will all die if they continue this madness. Back in the shroud, Captain Elena Vasquez received a copy of the High Chancellor's speech. She watched it 3 times. Then she called Dr. Chun to her ready room. Did you hear? She asked. I heard, Dr. Chun replied. They want us to leave. They say the ships are death traps. Elena nodded slowly. What do you think? Dr. Chun sat down heavily. He had spent the last 3 months living inside the largest Titan, the one his team had nicknamed Prometheus. He had walked its endless corridors. He had touched its strange walls. He had felt something in there. Something sleeping. I think the elder races failed, he said carefully. But I do not think that means everyone will fail. Captain, these ships are not just machines. They are biological. They grow. They think. And I believe they are looking for something specific in the beings who try to bond with them. Looking for what? I do not know yet. But I have a theory. Dr. Chun leaned forward. The elder races are old, ancient. They have lived for millions of years without real challenges. They are wise, yes, but they are also soft, comfortable. They have forgotten what it means to struggle. Elena understood. And humans have not. Exactly. We are young. We are hungry. We have spent our entire history fighting against impossible odds. Maybe that is what the Titans are testing for. Not intelligence, not wisdom, but will, stubbornness, the refusal to give up. Elena thought about this for a long time. Outside her window, Prometheus floated silently in space. A moon-sized ship waiting for someone to wake it up. 8 billion beings had tried and failed. 8 billion beings had died. But Elena remembered something her grandmother used to say. The universe does not care about your fear. It only cares about what you do next. She made her decision. I am going to try, she said quietly. I am going to bond with Prometheus. Dr. Chun looked at her with concern. Captain, if the High Chancellor is right, and I will die. But I will die trying to give humanity something the elder races never had. A chance. She stood up and walked to her communication console. She recorded a message to Earth, explaining her plan. Then she recorded a second message, this one personal, to be delivered to her family if she did not survive. Finally, she contacted the Galactic Concord. High Chancellor Zorath himself answered her call. "Captain Vasquez," he said coldly, "have you come to your senses? Are you ready to withdraw?" Elena smiled. "No, High Chancellor. I have come to tell you that tomorrow morning I am going to enter the neural core of the largest Titan. I am going to attempt the bonding trial, and I am going to succeed." Zorath stared at her in disbelief. "You will die. Maybe, but maybe not. Humans are different. High Chancellor, we do not break easily. This is suicide. This is foolishness. I will not allow—" Elena cut him off. "You cannot stop us. Your blockade is too far away. Your ships are too slow. By the time you reach us, it will already be over." She leaned closer to the screen. Her eyes were hard and bright. 10 million years ago, you gave up. You decided the Titans were too dangerous and sealed them away. But humanity does not give up. We do not seal away our problems and hope they disappear. We face them. We fight them. And we win. She ended the transmission. That night, the entire galaxy watched and waited. The elder races prepared for the news of another death, another failure, another species that had reached too far and paid the price. But deep inside Prometheus, in the chamber that held the ship's ancient neural core, a single light flickered to life. It had been waiting for 10 million years, and tomorrow it would finally meet its pilot. The neural core chamber was cold. Elena Vasquez walked alone through the massive doorway and felt the temperature drop with every step. The chamber was the size of a stadium, carved from dark metal that seemed to absorb light. At its center stood a platform, and on that platform was a chair made of the same flowing, biomechanical material as the rest of the ship. Cables hung from the ceiling like vines. They swayed gently, even though there was no wind. Dr. Chun's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Captain, we are reading increased activity throughout the ship. The Titan knows you are there. It is watching you." "Good," Elena replied. "I want it to see me." She walked to the center of the chamber and stood before the chair. It looked like a throne for a god, and she was just a human woman from a small planet in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. But she had never let that stop her before. "Whatever happens," she said into her communicator, "tell my daughter I love her. Tell her I did this for all of us." Then she sat down. The cables moved. They descended from the ceiling and attached themselves to her temples, her spine, her arms. Elena felt a sharp pain as they connected to her nervous system. Then the pain faded, and the visions began. She saw the universe, not as humans saw it, with telescopes and sensors and mathematical models. She saw it as the architects had seen it, in all its terrible beauty. Galaxies spinning like diamonds, stars being born in clouds of fire, black holes swallowing light itself. She felt the age of the cosmos pressing down on her mind. Billions of years, trillions of lives, an infinity of stories, most of them ending in death and silence. Then she saw the architects. They were beautiful, tall and graceful, with skin like flowing silver and eyes that held the light of 1,000 suns. They had built wonders beyond imagination, cities that floated between stars, gardens that grew in the hearts of nebulae. And the Titans, their greatest creation, their children. But then she saw the silence. It came from beyond the edge of the universe. A wave of absolute nothing. Not darkness. Darkness was still something. This was the absence of everything. Where it passed, stars did not die. They simply stopped existing. Planets did not burn. They were erased from reality itself. The architects had fought the silence. They had sent their titans into battle. But it was not enough. The silence was endless, eternal. It could not be killed because it was not alive. One by one, the architects fell. Their civilization crumbled. Their people vanished. In their final moments, they placed all their hope in the titans. They programmed them to wait, to sleep, to search the galaxy for a species worthy of carrying on the fight. 10 million years passed. Species came and went. They found the titans. They tried to bond with them. But every time, they broke. The weight of the architects' memories crushed their minds. The scale of the silence terrified their souls. They surrendered. They gave up. They died. Now it was Elena's turn. The memories hit her like a tidal wave. 10 million years of loneliness. 10 million years of watching species fail. 10 million years of hope slowly dying. She felt the Titan's grief like a physical weight on her chest. She could not breathe. She could not think. She could only feel give up. A voice whispered in her mind. It was not the Titan. It was her own fear. Just let go. It will be easier. The pain will stop. Elena closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter, about her crew, about all the humans who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of something more. And then she thought about her grandmother. Her grandmother had grown up in poverty. She had fought through war and disease and loss. She had buried her parents, her siblings, her husband. She had faced impossible odds every single day of her life. And she had never given up. Not once. The universe does not care about your pain, Elena whispered, repeating her grandmother's words. It only cares about what you do next. She opened her eyes. No, she said to the Titan, not with words, with her mind, with her soul. I will not break. I will not surrender. I will not give up. The visions intensified. The Titan pushed harder. It showed her the deaths of civilizations, the screaming of billions as the silence consumed them, the futility of resistance against an enemy that could not be defeated. Elena pushed back. She screamed defiance into the void. She gathered every ounce of stubbornness in spite that humanity had built over thousands of years of struggle. She took all the pain and fear and grief and turned it into fuel. I do not care how big you are, she thought at the approaching silence. I do not care how old you are. You want to erase everything? Fine, but you will have to go through me first. Through us. Through humanity. The chamber began to shake. Dr. Chan watched his instruments in amazement. The ship is activating. I repeat, the ship is activating. Power levels are increasing across all systems. Light flooded the neural core chamber. The cables attached to Elena began to glow with golden energy. The chair transformed around her, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth and power. And then she heard it, a voice, deep and ancient and filled with wonder. You are not like the others. Elena smiled despite the tears streaming down her face. No, she thought. I am not. Other species came to us with hope. The Titan continued. They hoped they were strong enough. They hoped they were worthy. Hope is weak. It breaks. What did I come with? Elena asked. The Titan was silent for a moment. Then it answered. Spite. You came with spite. You did not hope to survive. You refused to die. There is a difference. The light grew brighter. Elena felt her consciousness expanding. She was no longer just herself. She was connected to the Titan. She could feel its massive body like it was her own. She could sense its systems coming online after 10 million years of sleep. Prometheus was awake. and it had chosen its pilot. Outside the shroud, the Galactic Concorde's blockade detected an enormous energy surge. Sensor officers across 100 ships stared at their screens in disbelief. "This is impossible," one of them whispered. "She actually did it. The human actually did it." High Chancellor Zoreth received the news in his private chambers. He sat down slowly, his ancient body suddenly feeling very tired. "One Titan," he said quietly. "One Titan nearly destroyed our civilization when it went mad. Now the humans have bonded with one successfully. They have done what no other species could do." His advisor shifted nervously. "Perhaps they will fail with the others. Perhaps this was just luck." Zoreth shook his head. "Look at the data. 16 other Titans are showing activity. They are all waking up." He turned to look out his window at the stars. "The humans are not going to bond with one Titan. They are going to bond with all of them." For the first time in his long life, High Chancellor Zoreth did not know if he should be terrified or relieved. Perhaps, he thought, a little of both. 1 year had passed since Elena Vasquez bonded with Prometheus, and the galaxy would never be the same. 17 Titans now flew through space, each one piloted by a human volunteer who had survived the bonding trial. Not everyone made it. Of the 100 humans who attempted the connection, only 17 succeeded. The others either died or emerged with shattered minds, unable to speak or think clearly ever again. But 17 was enough. 17 moon-sized warships, each one capable of destroying entire fleets, all under human control. The elder races watched in stunned silence as the species they had, dismissed as children, became the most powerful force in the known universe. Elena stood on the bridge of Prometheus, though bridge was not really the right word. The ship had no traditional control room. Instead, Elena simply thought, and the ship obeyed. She could see through its sensors. She could feel the warmth of nearby stars. She could sense the gravitational pull of planets millions of kilometers away. She was no longer entirely human. The bond had changed her. Her eyes now glowed faintly with golden light. Her hair had turned silver white. She did not need to eat or sleep the way she used to. Prometheus sustained her dot. It was a small price to pay for what she had gained. "Captain," said Dr. Chun's voice through the communication system, "the Concorde Council is meeting again. They are arguing about what to do with us." Elena smiled sadly. The past year had been difficult. The elder races did not know how to handle humanity's new power. Some wanted to make peace. Others wanted to destroy the humans before they became unstoppable. The Sirathi Dominion was the loudest voice calling for war. "Let them argue," Elena replied. "As long as they only use words, I do not care what they say." But words were not all the Sirathi were using. 3 days later, Elena received an urgent message from Earth. The Sirathi Dominion had launched a massive military fleet, 40,000 warships, the largest armada assembled in galactic history. They were heading straight for Earth. Admiral Velketh, the same ambassador who had first learned of the Titan discovery, stood on the bridge of the Sirathi flagship. His fear of the Titans had transformed into hatred. Hatred of humanity. Hatred of their success. Hatred of everything they represented. "The humans must be destroyed," he declared to his officers, "before they become too powerful. Before they decide to use their Titans against us. We strike now while we still can." His fleet crossed the galaxy at maximum speed. Earth's defenses scrambled to respond, but everyone knew the truth. Without the Titans, humanity's regular navy was small and weak. The Sirathi would burn through them in hours. The United Earth Council sent a desperate message to Elena. She received it while floating in the void near the shroud. The other 16 Titan pilots were scattered across the galaxy, too far away to help. By the time they arrived, Earth would already be ash. Elena made her decision in seconds. Prometheus, she said aloud, how fast can we reach Earth? The ship answered in her mind. At maximum velocity, 3 hours. Do it. Prometheus began to move. Space itself seemed to bend around the massive ship as it accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. Stars blurred into lines of light. The fabric of reality screamed in protest. Elena felt the strain in every part of her body. The bond with Prometheus meant she experienced everything the ship experienced. The incredible forces, the burning energy, the raw power tearing through the universe. But she did not flinch. She did not slow down. Her people needed her. The Sci-Fi fleet arrived at Earth to find a planet preparing for death. Human ships formed defensive lines, knowing they were hopelessly outmatched. Civilians crowded into shelters. Children cried in their mother's arms. Admiral Velkith smiled. Begin the bombardment. Then his sensor officer screamed. Admiral! Contact emerging from hyperspace. Single vessel, but the readings. The readings are impossible. Prometheus dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly between the Sci-Fi fleet and Earth, a single ship the size of a moon. Facing 40,000 warships, Elena opened a communication channel to the Sci-Fi flagship. Admiral Velkith, she said calmly, turn your fleet around and leave. This is your only warning. Velkith stared at the screen in shock. Then his shock turned to rage. One ship? He snarled. You think one ship can stop us? We have 40,000 vessels. We have weapons that can crack planets. What can you possibly do against us? Elena's eyes glowed brighter. Through her bond with Prometheus, she could feel the ship's ancient systems humming with power. Systems that had not been used in 10 million years. Systems that the architects had designed to fight the silence itself. I was hoping you would not ask that question, she said quietly. But since you did, let me show you. She closed her eyes and thought a single command. Prometheus did not fire weapons. It did not launch missiles or shoot beams of energy. Instead, it simply reached out with its mind and touched the fabric of space-time around the Sci-Fi fleet. And then it pushed. The laws of physics bent. Gravity twisted. Space itself folded in on the enemy ships. Admiral Velkith watched in horror as his fleet began to compress. Ships that were kilometers apart suddenly crashed into each other. Vessels that had been flying in perfect formation found themselves spinning wildly out of control. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 40,000 Sci-Fi warships had been reduced to scattered debris. Not a single piece was larger than a human hand. The entire armada had been crushed into dust by forces that should not exist. Prometheus had not taken a single hit. Elena opened another channel, this time to the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every ship with a receiver heard her voice. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Titan Prometheus. The Sci-Fi Dominion attacked Earth without provocation. They have been stopped. Let this be a lesson to anyone else who considers violence against humanity. She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. We did not ask for this power. We did not seek it out. But we have it now, and we will use it to protect the innocent. Not just humans. Everyone. If your people are threatened, we will come. If your worlds are in danger, we will help. The Titans were built to be guardians. And that is what we intend to be. She ended the transmission. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the recording of the battle. They saw a single human ship destroy the mightiest fleet ever assembled. They saw power beyond anything they had imagined, and they realized that everything had changed. Chancellor Zorith watched the footage in his chambers. His hands were trembling, but not with fear, with something else. Something he had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Maybe. He thought, the humans are exactly what the galaxy needs. Then his communication console lit up with an incoming message from Prometheus. He opened it. Elena's face appeared on the screen. Her glowing eyes were serious. "High Chancellor," she said, "we need to talk. The Titans have shown me something. Something the architects left for whoever woke them up. A warning." Zorath leaned forward. "What kind of warning?" Elena's expression darkened. "The silence. The enemy the architects built the Titans to fight. It is not gone, High Chancellor. It is just sleeping. And it is starting to wake up." Zorath felt the hope in his chest turn cold. "How long do we have?" Elena looked at something off-screen. When she turned back, her face was grim. 200 years. Maybe less. The darkness is coming, High Chancellor, and the Titans alone will not be enough to stop it. She leaned closer to the camera. We are going to need everyone. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Earth, and the galaxy had transformed. The Galactic Concord still existed, but it was no longer the same organization that had once dismissed humanity as children. The elder races had humbled themselves. They had apologized for their arrogance. They had asked humanity for help, and humanity had said yes. Helena Vasquez stood in the great assembly hall on Valantis Prime, the same hall where Ambassador Okonkwo had once faced 1,000 hostile species. Now those species looked at Helena with respect, with hope, with something close to reverence. That she did not want their worship. She just wanted their cooperation. "The Sentinel Initiative has been active for 3 years now," Helena announced to the assembly. Her voice carried through the massive chamber without any need for amplification. The bond with Prometheus had changed more than just her appearance. "In that time, we have trained volunteers from 47 different species in the bonding trial." Holographic images appeared above her. Images of aliens Valeri, Kelzoth, even a few Sirthi connected to neural interfaces. Most of them showed signs of failure. Broken minds, shattered bodies. But a few had succeeded. 9 new Titan pilots have emerged from the program, Elena continued. 4 Valori, 3 Kelzoth, 2 Sirthi. The Titans are no longer humanity's burden alone. They belong to all of us. The assembly erupted in applause. Elena waited for it to quiet down before raising her hand. "But we cannot celebrate yet. The reason I called this meeting is not to discuss our successes. It is to discuss what is coming." The holographic display changed. Now it showed a map of the universe. A vast, incomprehensible map showing billions of galaxies spread across infinite space. At the edge of the map, a dark stain was spreading. "The silence," Elena said quietly. "The enemy that destroyed the architects. The enemy that the Titans were built to fight. It is real. It is coming. And we have approximately 200 years before it reaches us." The assembly fell silent. Every being in the chamber stared at the spreading darkness on the map. It moved slowly, but it moved constantly. Galaxies at the edge of the universe were simply vanishing. Not exploding. Not dying. Just ceasing to exist. High Chancellor Zorath rose from his seat. He was old now, older than he had been 5 years ago. But his voice was still strong. "What can we do?" he asked. "If the architects could not stop the silence with their technology, what hope do we have?" Elena smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was steel behind it. The architects almost stopped it. They came closer than anyone knows. But they ran out of time. They ran out of resources. And most importantly, they ran out of people willing to fight. She turned to face the assembly directly. "We will not make the same mistakes. The Titans have shown me the architect's final plan. They did not just build 17 ships. They built 17 seeds. Each Titan has the ability to grow more Titans, given enough time and resources. Gasps echoed through the chamber. In 200 years, Elena continued, we can build a fleet of thousands. Tens of thousands. Enough to form a wall of light against the darkness. Enough to fight back. She stepped forward, her glowing eyes sweeping across the assembled species. But it will take all of us. Every species. Every world. Every being who wants to survive. The Titans choose their pilots based on will, on stubbornness, on the refusal to surrender. That is not a human trait alone. I have seen it in Valori, who lost their families. I have seen it in Kelzoth, who refused to abandon their homes. I have seen it in Sirithi, who chose redemption over pride. She raised her fist. The silence does not care about our differences. It will erase us all equally. So we must stand together equally, not as elder races and younger races, not as conquerors and conquered, but as one people, one galaxy, one family. The assembly was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, High Chancellor Zorth began to applaud. Others joined him. Within seconds, the entire chamber was on its feet, cheering. Elena let them celebrate. They deserved this moment of hope. But she knew the truth. 200 years was not a long time. The work ahead would be brutal. Many would die. Many more would suffer. But they would not give up. That was the one thing she was certain of. Later that night, Elena returned to Prometheus. The great ship waited for her in orbit above Velantis Prime, its moon-sized hull glowing softly in the starlight. She walked through its corridors alone, feeling the familiar hum of its consciousness in her mind. What do you think? She asked aloud. Did I say the right things? Prometheus answered in her thoughts. You spoke truth. That is always right. But will it be enough? Will they actually work together? Will they put aside their fears and their hatreds and their pride? The ship was silent for a moment. Then it said something that surprised her. I have watched species rise and fall for 10 million years. I have seen empires built on hatred. I have seen alliances forged in desperation. Most of them failed. Elena felt her heart sink. Then what makes this different? You, Prometheus replied. Not because you are special. Not because you are powerful. But because you believe. You truly believe that beings can be better than they are. That is rare. That is precious. Elena laughed softly. I am just stubborn. You said so yourself. Yes, the ship agreed. But stubbornness and belief are the same thing. You refuse to accept that failure is inevitable. You refuse to accept that darkness must win. That refusal, that is what the architects hoped to find. That is what I hope to find. The ship paused. That is what the silence fears. Elena walked to an observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of everything, the darkness was approaching. An enemy older than time itself. An enemy that had erased civilizations beyond counting dot, and standing against it was a collection of stubborn, foolish, hopeful beings who refused to accept that they could not win. We are going to surprise them, Elena whispered. The silence thinks it knows how this ends. But it has never met anyone like us. Prometheus hummed in agreement. Your kind burned when others broke. That is why we waited. That is why you were chosen. Elena smiled. Then let us give the darkness something to be afraid of. Across the galaxy, the 17 original Titans began to disperse. Each one carried human and alien pilots working together. Each one began the centuries-long process of growing new ships, new defenders, new hope. On Earth, children looked up at the night sky and dreamed of becoming Titan pilots. On Valere Prime, young warriors trained their minds for the bonding trial. On former enemy worlds, Old hatreds faded as new alliances formed. The silence was coming. Nothing could stop that. But for the first time in 10 million years, there was something waiting to meet it. A galaxy united. A fleet growing. A fire that refused to go out. Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of Prometheus and watched the stars. She thought about her daughter, now grown, now training to be a pilot herself. She thought about Dr. Chun, still studying the architects, still searching for every advantage. She thought about all the beings across 1,000 worlds who were working toward the same goal. "We were never supposed to survive this long," she said softly. "Humans, I mean. We were small and weak and lived on a tiny rock in an unremarkable corner of the universe. Everyone expected us to fail." "But you did not fail," Prometheus replied. "No," Elena agreed. "We did not." She turned to look at the growing light of a new star being born in the distance. New light pushing back against the endless dark. "And we are not going to start now." Far across the universe, at the edge of everything, the silence continued its slow advance. It had consumed countless galaxies. It had erased species beyond number. It feared nothing, but somewhere, in the part of its vast consciousness that still remembered the architects, something stirred. A faint sensation it had not felt in 10 million years. Something was different this time. Something had changed in the galaxy it was approaching. The beings there were not running. They were not hiding. They were not surrendering. They were preparing. The silence did not understand this. It had never needed to understand anything. It simply erased. That was its nature. That was its purpose. But for the first time in its eternal existence, it wondered if perhaps this time would be different, that it pushed the thought aside, and continued its advance, that it would learn the truth soon enough.